Using EQ or equalization when you're mixing can be a little frustrating. What do you do first? What do you boost or cut? What frequencies should you focus on for your vocals or your instrumental tracks? How do you make things sound better instead of worse? If you're faking it, you can spend and waste a lot of time and still end up making things sound even worse than when you started. This video is for you if you want to learn how to adjust the EQ quickly and make tracks sound better instead of worse. Hi, I'm Trevor Dimoff. I transform musicians into songwriters at epicsongwriting.com. Watch the video all the way through and then click the description link for a written summary and bonus tips to make mixing with EQ easier and faster. If you learn anything interesting, be sure to subscribe and ring the little bell so that you know when I drop new videos. First, how to figure out which frequencies to start focusing on. To get started with EQ, I'm going to give you a bass line. In this case, the notes that I'm playing on guitar and voice for this song. So on the guitar, I'm just going to open up a tuner app. This is called Tuner T1. You can use any tuner that works that gives you frequencies. So you want a result in hertz as well as whatever tuning you're working on. So for the guitar, most of my notes are around this G for the bass. 98, 99. Low E string. 82 point something, high E string, 330, and the highest note I have on the guitar in this song, 494. So that gives me a range between 80 and 494 for the guitar. Anything above that is overtones, and that'll be coloring the tone, but not actually the fundamentals. For the singing, I need exotic bean. So my low G is just over 200. 235 for the middle note. I need exotic bean. 230. So most of my notes are going to be between those frequencies. One more thing. This is for the consonants. We're going to use a de-esser later. I'll explain that as we get there, but just to have a starting point for those. Shh. It's about 2700. 1200. B, B, K. That's your starting point for EQ. Let's get into the lesson. My signal chain. So, beautiful thing about Cakewalk is the Pro channel. These are low latency. That means they don't take up a lot of computer processing power. It makes it much easier to get everything done later. So my chain is an EQ. I have a console emulator that is disabled. We'll play with that at the last stages of mixing. And I have a limiter set to -1, -1. So that means as soon as it gets to -1, it's going to cap it. Nothing can go past that, so I can't overload the channel. I used to do it a lot when I was playing the sweep game. I'll show you in a minute. Now let's get into the mixing. So headphones, and we'll go. I'm going to start with the acoustic guitar. I've disabled the automatic read write, so it's going to go right up the center. Switch the pan back. I've got EQ set up in the Pro channel, which is a low latency, meaning it doesn't take a lot of computer power plug-in. It's awesome. So I've got parametric EQ. I've got console emulator that is disabled, and I have a limiter set to -1. So anything that hits -1 decibels caps it. Can't go past that, so it can't overload the channel. And I've got the same signal chain, same channels going on both guitars and the lead vocals. So I'm going to open this up. I'm going to mute and mute. So I'm only playing with one guitar, and my acoustic guitar is going up the center. So I've disabled the read write. I've disabled the reading. Pro channel opened here. And I'm going to pin this open so we can keep it there. So I want to get rid of anything low end rumble first. That's down here. We don't need that. Anything below 80. So I'm going to put it at 70. Once you've set something, you can also return it to the default by double clicking. So 70 here. Let's got rid of that. So this is my bass. Lowest note. It's nice to boost that a teeny tiny little bit if you can. So I was looking at about 100 for the G, so that's going to give us a little more tonic. Without. I'm going to save the low mids for later. It's nice to give a little sparkle at the high end. So this is called a notch filter or shelf filter. That's what they look like. Next we're going to sweep. Next we're going to sweep for any ugly sounds. So the cue is how wide or narrow something is, so we're going to thin that down. Grossly emphasize, and here's my wop. So I'm listening for, not the shush as I change, but any ugly sounds that I don't like. There's the string plucking. So what I'm deciding is around about that range, double click to get rid of that to 0. Around about there, I'm going to do a shelf boost like this of 2 or 3 decibels. Anytime you're boosting more than 3 or 4, you're probably messed something up in the mixing phase. You might want to think about that. And I'm going to do a little dip in here. See how that sounds. Now let's double check. I'm going to come back to that later and see if I still like it once I've added the vocals. Sometimes boosting is a bad plan. Now, I've got this set up. I'm going to save this as a preset. I've already set one here. I'm going to call this number 2. And now going to my other channel, open one called, guess what? I've just doubled it, and now go back to reading and writing and unmute this. Vocal time.
I need exotic beat.
Now it's time for vocals. We're going to start with the consonant sounds. So we're going to turn on the de-esser. Now the best way to deal with this one is to find out what is over. Solo this because that's all we need to hear right now. And we're going to put it on listen. So this only tells us what it's taking out. Crank the depth. And we're going to sweep the frequency.
Ruined mess.
And I'm also going to find the shushiest part, which is the first couple of lines, but way back here. So loop it. There's my new loop.
Stranger in a strange town.
So the stranger in strange town. Let's open this up. Make sure you enabled this. You can turn on or off the entire Pro channel with this button. And the same for the FX bin. If you ever hear something or you're playing with something and nothing's changing, you probably have something here turned off. So the de-esser is on. I'm maxed out the depth and I'm only going to listen now.
Strange.
So all we hear is what's being taken out, the strip image. So 2000, I'm losing a lot of this and sh. A bit less. Still some. So this is a special kind of EQ that only pulls out stuff that it doesn't like. It won't affect the other sounds around it. It's a narrow little cut it out. So right now there's nothing being taken out. This is the volume at this point. Channel strips are nice because they get a whole bunch of plugins all put together. And often it's easier on your CPU power. There's more. So that's getting the strut and cha.
Strange town. Stranger in a 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 strange town.
Here you can see how much is being taken out.
Stranger in a strange town. Stranger in a strange town. Stranger in a strange town.
And in context.
Stranger in a strange town. Stranger in a strange town.
So we've tamed the vocals a little bit. Now back to the ending. And I love how we can just advance that a little bit. We're going to change the loop points. Hop over there. Now let's clean up the EQ. Here's a quick little pro tip. Over here, let's crack this open first. So here's an advanced tip. We've got presets. Now, I'm not a huge fan of presets. They're great for learning. They're great for finding out what they do. For example,
I need a decent cup of coffee. Boiling meat. I need a decent cup of coffee. Craving quality caffeine. I need a decent cup of coffee. I need exotic beat. I need exotic. I need a decent cup of coffee. Feeling boiling me.
so they're great for learning. The problem with presets is, number one, you become dependent on them and think that they're great when they're so-so and okay. And the other problem, let's find that one that I hated. There are purposes. For example, cleaner. So this is taking out some low end and drop some of the higher end. It's missing something that I would put in that I'll talk about in a minute. This one.
I need a decent cup of coffee.
This is great unless you're singing low down in the basement, in which case this low end will cut it off. And there's another one in here. This one.
I need a decent cup of coffee.
Why is there two right here? What's the point of that? There is no point. You can get the same effect with one. So not dissing it that much. The problem is following them blindly and hoping they work. The other thing is some of these are designed for a specific purpose. The backup. Why does it do that? Well, it's trying to take out some of where the main sound is on the lead, so it's pulling back a little bit there. You wouldn't want to necessarily use that on the main lead smooth. Why is it doing this? You don't really hear up there. So I wouldn't bother with that myself. They're great for learning. Now, why is this one different from that one? They're just different effects.
I need a decent cup of coffee.
Really, you need to use your ears.
Feeling boiling mean. I need a decent cup of.
See these 6 dB jumps up here? I wouldn't do that. That's me. So what I prefer to do, let's go back to the reset. Full reset, we'll just zero everything. You can also double click something. So if I put this up here, there. So let's enable all our bands, even though they're not doing anything right now. I like gloss. It gives it a teeny little shimmer sometimes. So let's go back and listen.
I need a decent cup of coffee.
Start with the low end, get rid of the rumble. That's stuff that we don't really hear. It's not useful. It just gets in the way. The other thing that now let's sweep, find sounds we don't like, see if there's anything going on there. We're going to narrow the cue so we can find it faster. And remember, you're going to hear a whoosh sound as I move it. That's not the problem sound. That's like a wah effect that comes from just moving the filter. So I'm going to see if I can jump it a little bit, get rid of that.
I need a decent cup of coffee. feeling boiling me.
I'm gonna grossly exaggerate.
I need a decent cup of coffee, craving quality caffeine.
So that
I need a decent cup of coffee. I need exotic beat. I need exotic. I need a decent cup of coffee, feeling boiling mean.
So what I heard was the good sounds right around here. This is called the singer's formant, emphasizing some of the vowels in here, about a 3 decibel boost. And we're looking for 3,000 plus or minus about 200. So this kind of curve. I'll show you what it sounds like.
I need a decent cup of coffee, feeling boiling me.
So that gives us a little bit more projection through. Bring this over here for a second. This is my fundamental. And this one right in here. So let's zero them.
I need a decent cup of coffee, feeling boiling mean. I need a decent cup of coffee, craving quality caffeine.
And the craving part was a frequency I didn't like, so I'm going to pull that down a teeny bit. Now these are all small little touches. I'm only going up and down a few decibels. Like I said before, anything more than 3 and it's probably too much, and you should go back and get it recorded properly. Let's narrow the Q a bit.
I need a decent cup of coffee.
So I'm emphasizing this. I'm cutting these a little bit and raising it a little bit more here.
I need a decent cup of coffee. I need a decent cup of coffee, feeling boiling mean. I need a decent cup of coffee, craving quality caffeine.
So this is giving the vocals a tiny little boost around the fundamental. That's the main note I'm singing. I'm cutting out a teeny bit here because I didn't like it as much, and this is a standard sort of good place to try. So I'm going to back that down. See how it sounds.
I need a decent cup of coffee, feeling boiling mean.
And I'm done. Now you know how to use EQ properly and balance and shape the sounds on your instrumental tracks. It doesn't matter what instrument you're EQing, the process is the same. Start with a solid, great sounding recording in each track. Create a static mix with the volume of all the tracks balanced so that they sound good together. EQ tracks in context with each other so they fit together. Use your ears first, watching the graphic equalizer is a help, but not what you should depend on. Playing around with the presets is okay for learning. Flip through them and observe how the settings adjust the sound. Presets are designed for general situations. They're not necessarily what you need on your track. Some presets aren't really all that great in any context. Use your judgment. Use as little EQ as you can, with small cuts and boosts on as few bands as you need to improve the sound. Start with an instrumental track and save the vocals for last. I usually work through the tracks in the order that I recorded them. First, roll off any low end with a high pass filter to get rid of sounds or noise that you don't need. Find any problem areas by sweeping with about a 6 decibel boost. You can use larger when you're first starting out. Then reduce those spots on the EQ spectrum with cuts of 3 decibels or less, using the most narrow EQ you need. If you want more than 2 cuts, you're probably overdoing it. And if you boost or cut more than 3 decibels, you're either overdoing it or you're trying to fix a problem that you created in the recording phase. Try a slight boost of the chord instrument around the roots of the chords below the vocals. Try a light boost of vocals around 3 kHz to help your vocals project through the instrumental tracks. Once you're done, compare your mix with and without the EQ changes that you've made to be sure that you've actually improved it. You can also mute one track at a time or one band at a time to see how it's affecting it. In the next video, you'll watch me use compression as the next step with this mix. I'm Trevor Dimoff. I transform musicians into songwriters at epicsongwriting.com. Thanks for watching the whole video. If you learned anything in this video, be sure to subscribe and ring the little bell so that you know when I drop new videos. Then click the description link for a written summary and bonus tips to make mixing with EQ easier and faster. Once you've done all that, go write something worth recording.